Hello, everyone. So we got our first little recap this year, where Minnesota did win 28-12 over the Atlanta Falcons. So yeah, Matt Ryan was 33 of 46 for 304 yards, 6.6 average yards per attempt, two touch, two pick, sacked four times, lost 32 yards, and a rating of 85.8. So carrying the ball, they didn't really do much of it, where they only had 17 total carries, where Ito Smith led them in yards with 31, and Devontae Freeman led them with carries, but only 19 yards. And they had 73 yards on the ground total with a 4.3 average yards per attempt for all of them. Now, Matt Ryan did run for two times for 24 yards. Would like to see that not be a thing, but Austin Hooper caught all 9 of his targets for 77 yards, an 8.6 average, a long of 16, didn't catch a touch. Calvin Ridley caught 4 of his 6 for 64 and a touchdown. Mohamed Sanu, 5 of 6 for 57. And Justin Hardy was actually the next guy on the list with 4 for 5 catches there and 41 yards. Julio Jones caught 6 of his 11 targets for 31 yards, and that last final kind of mop-up garbage time score. And not much of note after that when it comes to the receiving. So 2 for 8 on third down for them. That was 25%. 1 of 2 in the red zone at 50%. And -3 in the turnover margin, but did hold the ball for 30 minutes and 13 seconds. So there's that. Minnesota, Kirk Cousins only attempted 10 passes today. He was 8 for 10, 98 yards and 9.8 average, a touchdown, no interception, was sacked 1 time, and had a rating of 140.8. So the efficiency was great there, but it would be nice to see more than 10 attempts, maybe. Just a thought, really. Carrying the ball, this is where they didn't. It was kind of reversed from this last year, because if you remember last year, they wouldn't run the ball. So far, well, in this one game, they didn't throw the ball. So Dalvin Cook had 21 carries for 111 yards. He averaged 5.3 yards a carry and had 2 scores. Alexander Madison had 9 carries for 49 yards. Abdullah 2 for 8. Cousins 6 for 4 and a touchdown. And then that's 38 carries for 172 yards, 4.5 average total with 3 total touchdowns. That's pretty good, especially compared to what last year was. And then you have the receiving. Once again, we only attempted 10 passes. This is kind of on the low. Thielen caught all 3 of his targets for 43 yards and a score, averaging 14.3 yards a catch. Diggs 2 for 2 for 37 yards, 18.5 a catch. BB caught his lone target for 9 yards on a screen. Dalvin Cook caught both of his targets for 9 yards, and Rudolph didn't catch his one target. And the other incomplete pass was a throwaway by Kirk Cousins. So they were 5 for 10 on third down percentage, which is 50%, which is up from last year so far on that through the one game. 3 for 3 in the red zone, so 100%, plus 3 in the turnover margin, and held the ball for 29 minutes and 47 seconds. So now comes the fun part, more of the post-game stuff as opposed to just stats and numbers of, things of that nature. So offensively, when they said balance, I didn't know that really meant 38 rushes to 10 pass attempts. It would be nice to see that ratio become a little better. And I'm not really complaining. It was really good to see the run game actually come alive, especially after last season, where you could say there were multiple times where it was just, that kind of lost them games. And it actually kind of won them this game, just the fact that it was working so well. But I think that's more of a thing to do with the fact that Atlanta's defense is it's really quick, really aggressive, really fast. But it's also undersized for the most part. So I think the run game was heavily emphasized in this game as opposed to maybe some other games we'll see. So I think that will actually kind of fix itself in that way. I think Elfline is probably somewhat of a problem in pass protection. Like every time I saw them actually attempt a pass, it appeared that left side was falling apart, and more often than not, I found myself thinking, I think that's more on Elfline than Reef. So that's concerning. I would like to see that improve, obviously, and I think this is kind of a make or break year for Elfline, given how things have shaken out. And there weren't any turnovers, and they were mostly and relatively efficient, so I can't be too mad about that. Defensively, can we get less neutral zones, please? It seemed like every third and short there was a neutral zone. The turnovers were a great plus. We don't always get turnovers. That's always not a thing that we get. Anthony Harris had himself a day. He had 2 picks and a fumble recovery today, and he was just kind of everywhere on the field. So that was good. That was really good. And I do think they allowed some more of those explosive plays strictly because I did see quite a bit of blitzing from them, which would kind of, in turn, let some guys loose in the secondary because you're sending more bodies to go get the quarterback, in this case, Matt Ryan. So I wouldn't worry too much about allowing over 300 yards to Matt Ryan, but even if you put in the sack yards, it's only like 270-ish. But I think that's mostly what that was, and it was really good to see them actually get Barr involved early with that first on the sack on the first play. So it was nice to see that. And I did also see a lot of Jaleel Johnson in the game, and Mataafa showed some pretty good things on that Linval Joseph sack. You saw Hercules Mataafa kind of collapse the pocket from the interior and force him to pretty much cause a sack, even though he doesn't get credit for it. He did cause that sack. Special teams blocked punt, but we blocked theirs. It wasn't ours blocked this time. And we made all the kicks today. So special teams, good job. Didn't let anything down today. And overall, I feel like this was a very good win and was definitely a lot more decisive than I thought this would be. And I would like to see some better pass pro in general, and then just also less penalties also in general. They had 11 penalties for 100 yards in this game. It would be nice to see that number come down a little bit. And hopefully Alexander doesn't miss too much time. I saw they are kind of wording this as a dislocated elbow, and he's getting an MRI tomorrow on things, which is never really a great sign, but I'm really hoping he doesn't miss too much time because, we have the whole Mike Hughes dynamic, and we don't really want them forcing him back either. But you have Holton Hill on suspension, so then you come into this weird area where it's like it's just kind of Chris Boyd and Mark Fields. Yeah. So I'd like to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Until next time, I bid you all adieu.